His deliverables are anchored on the energy trilemma pillars of sustainability, affordability, and reliability, leading revenue generation and customer experience for Meralco's 8 million customers is the Senior Vice President and Chief Revenue Officer, who previously served as First Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer, holding senior roles in customer retail services, supply chain, logistics, and distribution. Please welcome and thought leaders, Ferdinand Geluz. Good to see you again, Ferdy. Welcome to the program.
Thank you and good evening, Ma'am Cathy.
Yes, so Meralco's reported its 9-month earnings. The consolidated core net incomes come in 14% higher.
Yeah.
To what would you attribute that?
Well, I think that goes a lot to say about the vision of our chairman. Uh, and if you'll notice, we reported a flat sales in terms of energy as far as distribution is concerned. But because of the diverse portfolio, it was really generation that lifted up the generation segment that lifted up the income of Meralco. So the balanced portfolio of Meralco in energy actually some sort of ensures the growth of the company, moving forward. I think we continue to invest in generation. Of course, it's very much related to our goal of sustainable and secure energy, for our customers and for the country.
Let me pick up on flat sales growth. What accounted for that? What were the reasons for the flat sales growth?
Well, mostly for the distribution side, we saw household consumption contract. It's basically because it's driven by temperature. Last year it was El Nino. It's quite a reverse right now that we have a transition to La Nina. In fact, the use of cooling equipment has some sort of slowdown. And as far as commercial is concerned, we also saw the impact of mobility, typhoons, and a lot of class suspensions brought about by the adverse weather. So it some sort of also impacted our commercial segment. Of course, to add the impact of the Pogo exit, which impacted real estate occupancy as well as hotel occupancy. Uh, so, and also it has a residual impact on tourism. So we saw less tourists, especially from China.
Has that run its course, you think? The exit of the POGOs and the impact it's had on hotel occupancy? Or do you think we could see a lot more of that going into 2026?
Well, to 2026, what we some sort of forecast is actually normalization. So technically, because this year we're comparing it with 2025. So since 2024, where the POGO just started to exit, but count 2025 is a complete ban on the POGO. So it's from a full operational POGO industry until June to actually zero in start of 2025. So we some sort of see some sort of normalization at least compared to the previous year, and then we will see some sort of increases in consumption of data centers, and maybe based on normalization of weather, we will see some sort of a slight increase in organic growth. And of course, we continue to energize new customers. Like this year, we energized around close to 200,000 new customers. To date, that we're right now at close to 8.2 million customers, and this will some sort of increase our energy sales next year for the distribution side. Of course, for generation, we continue to build capacities, and I think by next year, our solar plant, the Terra Solar in Nevesia, will start to deliver towards the year, 2026, renewable kilowatt hours, coming from what is supposed to be the largest solar and battery storage plant, no, once it's completed next year.
So energy sales flat for the first 9 months,
Mhm.
but the average retail rate, when I look at it, it's gone up
Yep.
11% for the first 9 months, driven by the higher transmission, generation charges, and also the purchase power costs.
Yep.
How do you explain to the complaining customer?
Well, the purchase power cost is basically generation, the generation plus transmission. As far as distribution charges is concerned, it's actually the same, no, flat since 2016. So for the last 10 years or so, distribution charges remain the same. But of course, generation costs or purchase power costs varies, of course, with the peso dollar exchange rate, the foreign exchange rate, as well as the cost of fuel and the fuel mix. So right now, I think we're heavily reliant on natural gas, LNG, and of course there's fluctuation, and of course it's dependent on the foreign exchange. But I think it's our energy mix is actually contracted in a way that aside from cost is a consideration because we are actually mandated to procure the least cost manner. But of course, the number one priority is really energy security to ensure that there will be power once the customers turning their switches on. So we're actually working with DOE and ERC in terms of our uh, power supply contracts, and we ensure that we get the proper approvals before we actually contract them. And of course, it's based on the forecast as well as the power development plan of the government.
So it's reliability for one, but for the customer, it's affordability. You
Yeah.
mentioned the forex,
Yep.
which is much of a variable
Yep.
for the purchasing
Fuel.
of fuel. Now that the peso's fallen to a low we hadn't seen this year,
Mhm.
what might it mean for the average retail rate for the customer?
Well, I think that, well, the general tendency of uh, the forex increases, so technically there will be an impact on the fuel rates as well as electricity rates because we actually procure generation from the market, well, from market, of course, through contracts, and contracts is usually based on the cost of fuel. So there's a tendency to really some sort of increase. No, of course we manage it by balancing also our purchase in the market. If the open market or WSM prices are low, we some sort of also buy from the market in a quantity that we can, because of course we have to honor our existing contracts, the minimum of take contracts from the contracted power supply.
So it's a pass on cost.
Yep.
So presumably the consumer might have to bear a little bit more in paying for more
Yep.
for electricity.
Yes. Yes. But of course, to a certain extent, we some sort of have some sort of find ways, no, to some sort of contain that cost if we could find other sources that are cheaper, no. Of course, sometimes we buy at Wesem at the, as I said, at the quantity that we can, while not some sort of violating certain minimum quantity uh, for the contracts that we have.
There's new rate reset rules
Yes.
that's coming into force by January 1st next year in 2026.
Mhm.
The Energy Regulatory Commission, that's going to be Meralco's first in 10 years
Yeah.
that a rate reset
Yeah.
would happen. How are you planning to adapt your pricing strategy to both comply to the new regulation and also to keep the customers thinking that this is fairly priced?
Mhm. Well, as I mentioned, distribution costs have been flat for the last 10 years, and it actually only comprises around 10 to 15% of the total electricity cost. So, of course, our mandate is to provide safe, reliable, adequate electricity to our consumers at affordable cost. So part of that affordability is really strengthening the grid, meaning uh, to some sort of make the grid sturdy enough to withstand all the disruptions, no? Not only of the weather, but of course the increasing variable renewable energies connected to our grid. For example, solar rooftops. Uh, of, uh, we call that actually distributed energy resource. So the solar rooftops that the customers some sort of put to be able to save on electricity. So it has a cost actually because uh, as far as solar rooftops are concerned, yes, they will save on generation, but I think we have to make the grid sturdy enough to have visibility to ensure that it won't impact other customers without solar rooftops. So in other words, we have to have visibility to ensure that and manage the impact of too much renewables to ensure that we have a stable grid because it might cause to overloading of equipment and maybe eventually outages. So part of our filing is really enabling energy democratization, enabling our consumers to be prosumers, for them to be able to install as much as rooftop that they can to be able to generate their own power uh, and in a way not affecting other consumers as well as the stability and security of the grid. So that's why we're investing heavily on smart technology, advanced metering infrastructure, distributed energy management systems. So we are actually really digitalizing our grid. So it's been a journey, but now it's accelerating as we some sort of uh, support uh, government's drive for energy democratization. I think you're also aware that the government has been allowing retail aggregation, for example, for customers uh, to be able to aggregate their load, let's say multiple commercial or residential customers to aggregate their load and contract from a power supplier in terms of their power supply or generation. So that will give them some sort of affordable generation cost, which is actually the largest part of your electricity bill, around 60%, I think. So if you were able to contract cheaper than the rest of the distribution utilities customers, then you'll have a cheaper electricity rate. But of course, to be enabled that, we need smart meters. So that's why the investment of Meralco is heavily hinged on allowing energy democratization, customer choice, as well as the supporting the proliferation of distributed energy resources. So that is solar rooftops, electric vehicles, because we know electric vehicles are heavy electricity users, but of course you won't know at what time of the day they will consume. And of course, this actually causes the variability in the load. So we all, in as much as we want to have visibility and control, as well as the function of our grid during heavy penetration of renewables, it is the same with EV. So that's why at least it is true to our mandate of making the grid stable, reliable, adequate, no, for our consumer needs.
So, how do you think that's going to show up in the new pricing strategy when it comes into force in January? But by June, the Energy Regulatory Commission's going to implement that
Mhm.
kind of a pricing strategy. I see that you've already bundled in that transition.
Yep.
How is it going to look like on our consumer bill?
It might have a slight increase in terms of distribution charge, and of course, coming from our distribution charge 10 years ago, so it hasn't changed. So, of course, there will be inflationary increases given the same kind of spending, but we will spend also, no, to be able to upgrade the grid, to be able to make it smarter. Uh, aid the energy transition as well as allow prosumers to really save on their energy. So while there might be a slight increase in distribution charge, much of the savings to customer will come uh, from uh, from energy efficiency in terms of also supplying their own electricity to cheaper solar sources, and of course it also aids our energy transition. Uh, to tell you some numbers, no, at this point in time, we already see around for the first 9 months close to 500 billion kilowatt hours. So that's 500 billion, yeah, 500 million kilowatt hours of solar generation of consumers. So both for the uh, commercial industrial, large rooftops, as well as households. So, so that in a way provides a lot of savings for them. No, of course it's a loss in as far as sales is concerned for the Meralco, but it's a welcome development because it is in the energy transition, and eventually as far as our customers, no, they benefit on that, and of course 500 million kilowatt hours is just a small fraction of our sales. It will increase, yes, it will increase, but of course, it's forms part of our mission, no, to really serve our customers and allow energy transition, no, the faster energy transition, and of course, the use of renewables within our grid.
So it's a pain in both sides. I see that the consumers will have to take a higher distribution charge at a certain point, and you're taking in some of the losses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's shared
Yep.
Of an effort to transition.
Yep.
How long though will the pain be before we get to see lower electricity charges on every consumer bill and maybe even higher margins for Meralco?
Well, as far as margins, we're actually a regulated entity, so we can only earn as much as what the regulators would allow, which is the return on return. Technically, it's based on our weighted average cost of capital. But as far as consumers, I think the benefits is immediate. Like for example, uh, if on the average, for example, a household consumer can actually save as much as 50% on the cost of electricity by putting up a solar rooftop. Of course, there will be a first investment, but the payback period is really right now because installations are cheaper. And of course, prices of generation is really coming higher. No, payback period is actually sometimes 5 years, sometimes even shorter. So that means, and of course, the life of the system for a solar PV, for the PV itself, is 20 years. Maybe you'll have maintenance 5 to 7 years for the other electronic items. But I guess it's the value is really provided to the customer in day one. So, and it's kind of a program that we at Meralco want to encourage uh, for the commercial industrial consumers. We see an average of around at least 15 to 20% savings, if they can maximize their rooftop. Of course, they are heavy power users, they have limited rooftops, but 10 to 15 percent actually some sort of an advantage or of great value to them, because I think electricity is for the large power users is one of the highest costs in terms of operations. So I guess that's it. So benefits for the consumers are actually immediate. For Meralco, we have to spend, to be able to enable that and allow us to get the most modern and intelligent equipment, because for as long as we will don't have intelligence in the grid, we cannot enable such technologies, no, to some sort of a ramp up.
And that's where CapEx comes in,
Yep.
75 billion
Mhm.
of that,
Mm.
a big portion of that devoted for power
Distribution.
generation.
Well, power generation, it's for building capacity, but I'm talking about the distribution grid because that's the regulated portion of our business, no. So when you talk of Meralco, the core business is really distribution, and it's actually heavily regulated.
But the key driver right now for the past 3 quarters, when we look at your financial statements, really been in power
Power
generation.
generation.
What's the way forward there, and how can that drive lower costs for consumers?
Well, as far as power generation, it's a different line of business. So I think we should separate Meralco's income in terms of the drivers. When we talk of power, the consumers, no, I think we're talking of the distribution because we're the one who bills the consumers. We're the ones who contract power from various sources. No, of course, some of them including some of the generation that we actually bought in. For example, for the natural gas, we've been contracted with the natural gas plants before. We just bought in some interest, no, a certain percentage of the plant, and of course that some sort of produce a certain income, no. But of course, it comes with a huge investment. Uh, Apart from that, we also have investment in Singapore, no, and I think it's some sort of earning robustly, you know, the past few years, and it's contributing to the increase of Meralco's income. As far as generation, because we started basically from almost zero the past 10 years, then we're slowly building up capacity right now. So that's why it's some sort of earning a share of the total income. I think to this to date, more than 30% is on generation. The, when MVP came in, I think 97% of our income is coming from distribution alone. We still don't have generation interest at that time, but of course, with his vision and of diversified portfolio, he actually articulated when he came in that in the next 10 years or so, distribution, while it's 97% now, uh, he had identified milestones that in the next few years it will be just 70%, then later on 60%, until such time that our diversified business portfolio will some sort of just have 50% distribution, and our other investments, other unregulated investments, will form part of the other 50% or more. So that's the vision of our chairman. And at first, looking back maybe 10 or 15 years ago when he came in, I myself, no, I cannot imagine that because for all my career at that point in time, we're distribution. Of course, we had generation in the past, but since martial law, it's been some sort of transfer to government. So, but here we are, right? And of course, he has also pronouncement that Meralco is a distribution business, will be technically a digital business with a distribution footprint or something. So, and it's happening now because our grid is getting smarter, uh, and we, it's heavily digitalized, and of course, we will further tread that road to enable to enable to deliver the value our customers deserve.
And tread that road long and aligned with what the government's energy mix
Yep.
is targeted for two milestones here, 2030 and 2050.
Yep.
How are you on that road in meeting those targets?
As far as generation, I think we surpassed our target of contracting more than 1,500 megawatts of distribution. And of course, we're building the largest solar and battery storage complex that will come in next year, and we'll surpass our 1,500 megawatts target of new builds of renewables. So uh, by next year, maybe we can next next year or up to 2027, we will already surpass our renewable targets set up to 2030. And of course, 2040, uh, uh, 2040, 2050 is actually a few years later, but I think we're right on track. Uh, so not only on generation, but of course in terms of electric mobility, we're actually a staunch supporter of electric mobility, in the country. In fact, we've been awarded last year as one of the supporters in the EVAP, Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines in 2024. We got the award of one of the pillars that supported the transition to electric vehicle. Internally, we're actually moving to electric vehicles ourselves. No, at this point in time, we have around 7%, no, with a goal of going 25% of our fleet converted to electric vehicles. So we have cars, motorcycles, electric pickups, and maybe soon we're just looking for the right technology. Perhaps even our basket trucks, no, uh, might be electric or partially electric.
Do you drive an EV?
Well, I have actually a hybrid right now, but of course, my plan is in the next year or so to really convert to a full EV because I've seen a lot of good pure EVs, no, especially vans. So, have you seen the latest BYD Max 9? Wow, it's
So
true.
you're waiting for the perfect time. So it's a matter of coming to grips with EV. I mean, as a consumer, a prosumer,
Yeah.
you didn't want to jump to EV quickly. You needed a transition hybrid.
Well, I have a hybrid technically because uh, I live in Cavite, no? So, but of course, come to think of it, at a single charge with the range of EVs now, uh, I could charge once a week, or but of course, since I have a house, so I could do daily charging. So it's a matter of really timing, no? Because of course, I wanna run my existing vehicles up to some sort of at least 5 years uh, before I change. But of course, uh, I think if I could sell some of my existing vehicles, I would quickly transition, no? Starting maybe late this year or next year.
Okay, well, it's interesting that you mentioned that transition because every consumer has that journey of also transitioning as technology changes,
Hmm.
and they do need some kind of a middle part.
Yeah.
There are two things with the consumer right now. It's the ability to transition and their willingness.
Yeah.
From the market insights that you get, what are you gaining from customers right now? Are they as willing from say 10 years ago if they are able?
Yeah, I think they're more willing now because
What do you think's driven that?
there's more choices as far as EVs are concerned. I think before there's not a lot of choices, mostly imported and the high-end brands. But right now, I think the market is really flooded with EVs. So the choice as well in terms of what kind of EV, what year, no, in terms of and the cost. I think there's a lot of options right now, and I think in Meralco, our role is also to ensure that we support the installation of charging stations. No, that's why we're in talks, partnerships with a lot of electric, well, charging point operators as well as operators of EVs and stuff. Like I think you've seen our memorandum of understanding with GSM, no, the taxi fleet, no, from Vietnam. So I think you'll see a lot of them now on the road, the green ones. So I think at the time of signing earlier this year, they deployed around 500 taxis, no, taxi fleets. I think at this point in time they're running thousands, and we're supporting them in terms of putting up their stations, as well as charging stations that will support their fleet of taxis. And next up, they will also be aggressively installing public charging stations.
Would you say the same for those using or probably thinking of using solar rooftops or distributed energy resources within the home
Mm.
of your 8.2 million customers within the franchise? Are they as willing to shift or are they still waiting and seeing what happens next?
I think they're willing because the last few years we've seen uh, solar rooftop capacity, as far as residential is concerned under the net metering program, growing as much as 40%, I think, every year. So we will see a lot of them definitely as the technology becomes cheaper, no? And of course, there's a lot of installers now in the country. Uh, I think it will generate also a lot of jobs in terms of the installers and a new kind of industry uh, as we maybe energize, like for Meralco, it's at least 8 million homes,
Yes.
right? So maybe taking away those who live in condos, but there are also solutions we're looking at that can apply to condos.
Would that include AI though? If you AI enable the solutions in the deployment, solar
Yeah.
rooftops, what would that mean for jobs? Would that mean a lot more jobs or a lot less?
Well, as far as AI is concerned, it will maybe transform jobs. No? I think I was talking to one of the energy executives, and yes, maybe AI will displace some of the repetitive jobs, but of course, jobs that needs decision making. I think jobs experience, you cannot replace it with AI. Uh, but of course, this AI will also need power, a lot of power, a lot of data centers. So there's also a certain kind of jobs that will be created on that end. So, well, going to that, because AI will need a lot of processing data center capacity. Uh, a data center, a megawatt of data center can actually generate 50 jobs. So if based on projections, like for example, in the Philippines, if the data localization pushes through, government data alone will create at least 1,000 jobs, no? Because 200 megawatts. But of course, next in line is maybe financial and other personal data, no, that are some sort of important. So if it gets localized, a lot of jobs will also be created.
Whatever happened to that push to be the hyperscale and AI hub of Asia? Is that still on track or are we still on a wait and see because the local localization policy is still in the works?
Well, I think it gained some sort of a momentum, the data localization, some sort of initiative. I think the ICT already released some sort of draft rules or something, and I think there was some sort of consultations going on. No? And as soon as it some sort of launches, no, I think at least for government data alone, 200 megawatts is easy, no. And of course, we already have the capacity right now in terms of built data center capacity that can host that. But that's only the first, no. And of course, uh, estimates are, I think, if it really uh, some sort of pushes through, starting with the government data centers, you will need at least 1,000 megawatts or 1 gigawatt capacity in the next 5 to 7 years.
Are you ready for that? Are you ready to supply that?
Well, I think as far as Meralco, we are ready. In fact, we already some sort of uh, built, no, several hyperscaler ready in PLDT Vitro, as well as maybe STT Globe, no, in Novaliches. So Vitro is actually in Santa Rosa, no, combined. I think Combined, the two of them has an ultimate capacity of around close to 200 megawatts already. But of course, there are other players, no, that's already here and willing to expand. No, we have B Infotech, we have Digital Halo, Digital Edge, Ayala. Ayala also uh, have one, no, and we've shown that we are able to host capacities as much as 100, 150 megawatts, as high as 300 megawatts. No, I think for Vitro and STT, the capacity with some sort of supply, no, based on the technical specifications, can reach as high as 300 megawatts, on the location that where they are. No, but of course it depends on them how they will scale up. No,
Because of power costs. I mean, that's the oft said refrain that power costs here are one of the highest in Asia, in the region, next to Singapore.
yeah, I agree. So maybe we're one of the highest on the average, but because of energy democratization, starting with the large customers, we are actually in open access or retail competition in open access for the larger customers, especially the heavy power users. So, like for 500 kilowatts and up customers, they have the power of choice on contracting with a retail supplier, their power supply. So, take for example a large data center, maybe for the likes of 10 megawatts and up, no? So there's a lot of them actually, Vitro, STT. So the capacities of data center we have are more than 10, 10 megawatts, are a handful, no? A data center operation requires technically high availability, uh, well, high capacity. Uh, and of course, at day one, they are contestable. So that means at day one, at 10 megawatts, you could choose your own supplier. So yes, it will pass through our lines, but you just have to pay the distribution charge. Uh, but of course, everything else is billed by your retail supplier, and we will bill your retail supplier. No? Your retail supplier will also contract power from a generation for you at a cheaper cost because you're a high power user. So that being said, we have actually a white paper that will be released soon, no, that uh, tells a story that we're actually at par with our ASEAN neighbors, maybe at par with Thailand. That is because of this contestability, where you can contract at current power rates. We can contract at the full cost at 0.12, no, cents per kilowatt hour. And this is actually in parity with Thailand and even cheaper than Malaysia as it is now. And of course, much, much cheaper than Singapore. So we want to debunk that myth. No? As far as hyperscale data centers are concerned, we in the Philippines, especially in Meralco, have the technical capability to serve, providing the reliability requirements of a Tier 4 data center, which is actually 26 minutes interruption per year. Imagine that. So it's a 99.995% reliability or availability. In terms of cost, we've debunked that myth that cost is high. Yes, on the average, but for a hyperscale data center kind of usage, we can we are competitive, no, to our ASEAN neighbors. So, and I guess with the drive of government to localize uh, data, no, starting with government data, I think there's a lot of potential, no, for the Philippines in terms of that space.
Talk to us about that potential now that there's heightened political risk.
Mhm.
As you know, the anomalous government flood control programs
Mhm.
have driven some of them on a wait and see for the
Mhm.
investors, potential or current.
Mhm.
What's the situation right now from your clients, suppliers, customers who probably wanted to invest or are invested in the Philippines?
Well, I would say that yes, it might have an immediate impact, but I think the way government is handling it, and of course, uh, may be key, no? Of course, it surfaced the way government handled it. Yes, it has an immediate impact, but I think it will some sort of we can recover from this now. And as far as at least on the hyperscaler data centers are concerned, inquiries actually we've gotten a lot of inquiries right now for high capacity data centers interest, no, to build in the country.
So
No,
that's still continuing
it's
despite
still
the heightened
continuing.
political risk.
Yeah.
Meralco is very much linked to the economy.
Mhm.
Whatever happens to the economy, there goes power usage.
Yes.
What now, given that most of the forecasts coming out are of lower trajectory for GDP?
Mhm.
How was that changing your own projections for Meralco?
Yeah, actually, as far as projections are concerned, no, as far as well, we kind of segment our customers and really check on each type of customer as well as industry, the manner they will get affected. Of course, on the residential front, uh, consumer spending is still up. So I think as far as the flow of money, there's still flow of money, maybe coming from the OFWs and of course the commercial segment and other job generating. Because I think unemployment rate is also gone down a little despite the slowdown in the economy. Uh, so as far as consumer power, I think there's still consumer power. So as far as consumer, we see a modest growth on the residential side, no, owing to normalization, maybe normalization of the temperature, maybe less flooding next year, or now that I think they're fast tracking efforts on flood control, uh, maybe less typhoons coming from La Nina, technically La Nina we're having now, and maybe a little warmer temperature, no, compared to what we have now. So that will some sort of increase usage of cooling equipment together with the commercial. So I think we, I would like to think that we bottom down, no, this year, no, because of the impact of the pogo, and what can happen is slowly it will be taken up by new office space requirements. Like for example, let's take the case of the largest hub, no, in Cavite, what you call the Island Cove, uh, is actually completely dark right now. It used to be a Disneyland, no? Because I passed that way, Cavitex. Now it's completely dark, but slowly, I think EEI already bought into it, and they plan to convert it to a mixed-use uh, commercial residential township. So I think it can only go better, no, as far as commercial residential. Of course, industrial, there's a lot of levers, no, affecting the industrial segment. Semicon, the largest of which, actually is kind of resilient at this point in time with all the global issues happening. No, of course, forex might affect it. Uh, but as far as the U.S. tariff is concerned, I think U.S. is not the major export for our local semicon. Yes, it's major is I think China, Hong Kong, no, and maybe other parts of the globe. But I think we have a fairly smaller amount, no, of exports to the U.S. as far as semicon is concerned. So it's a kind of uh, modestly increasing, no, but on a modest scale. We've seen cement production going up, steel, of course, plastics is having kind of challenges, basically because of one of the large plants closed down. No? But yes, it happened this year, but next year I think we'll be seeing modest growth, no, and we're forecasting actually around 3% growth, no. Aside from the fact that we're continuously energizing lots of customers, so we are seeing an increase of another maybe 200,000 new customers next year. So that will bring us to 8.4 million customers from 8.2 this year.
Given the possibility that there could be fluctuations, maybe even higher distribution charges for the customer bill, what are you now doing to ensure that when the customer gets their bill, it's something they can understand? Because the least that you'd want is a customer receiving a bill that doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
And that they're having to pay a little bit more.
Well, we do a lot of technically infomercials, no, related to the bill. Well, number one is the regular Meralco advisory, where we explain the causes of the bill increase or decrease, and as I mentioned, no, it's always the generation and transmission that's variable, no, and the distribution remains the same. For the first time, if distribution will be the one may increase. We still don't know, no, what will be approved by the regulators, increasing or decreasing. So our usual explanation will happen. No? But of course, if it's an increase, we will really articulate what are the benefits that can be expected. No? And of course, that they've been experiencing, no, on top of the maybe a centavo, a few centavos increase. Because normally, distribution charge doesn't form a large part of the bill, as I mentioned, around 15%. And it might increase a few centavos or so, unlike generation that sometimes increase 50, a peso, almost a peso or what, diba? So I think the variability of distribution, the stability of distribution charge is kind of better, no, compared to the other components of the bill. But what we will explain to the customers on the total electricity bill, no, you will get to save a lot more, no, because we will allow you to be prosumers, to produce your own power using solar rooftop. We will allow you, well, a sustainable lifestyle by being able to charge electric vehicles in your home or elsewhere. And we will assure you that you have the power on your consumption, as we will deploy a smart grid with smart meters that can inform you, know, daily on your usage, so that you could there will be no bill shocks, no surprises. So the way we do with our K-load customers, the prepaid one, where we inform them daily of the remaining load that they have, no. So that kind of influences usage, no, and allows them to save, no, and manage the budget, no, for electricity.
As a final point, your fearless forecast for 2026. What do you see down the line?
Well, 2026 will be challenging, no, because of the global happenings as well as some of the political issues we're experiencing now. But I think the country has shown resilience through all this, no, and it happens. And I guess as Filipinos, no, we can only be optimistic of 2026. Yes, there are challenges, no, but I think we will persevere, no, for as long as we move as one. And of course, we at Meralco are not only delivering electricity, no, but also, as our chairman mentioned, no, we are a business with a purpose. Our purpose extends beyond providing electricity, no, and it's really empowering Filipinos, no, as well as businesses. Of course, not by way of electricity, and of course by way of our other capabilities, like our One Meralco Foundation, as well as the partner MVP group. No, we all, as he always mentioned, we only have one country, and this is a country that we love. So we can only be optimistic and have this perspective of really looking at how can we help the Philippines maybe be at par, no, with our neighbors. Of course, it's a big task, but every little things that we do should be geared towards that purpose.
All right, we'll leave it then to optimism for 2026. I appreciate all the insights, Ferdy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ferdy Geluz joining us from Meralco. Stream all episodes of Thought Leaders with Cathy Yang in Spotify and on the One News PH YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, like or follow my social media pages. I'm Cathy Yang. This is Thought Leaders.